Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
Yep. And this is going to be our Thursday night review of the 49ers Seahawks game. Going to talk about the good and the bad for both teams here, but we always have to start with the winners first. So the 49ers.
It's a good game. Did you like it?
It's a pretty good game. Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Roller coaster. Let's call it that. So winning team gets the t-shirt, but the losing team's pole position there because that's who we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've got some comments to lead this
sign
off.
on? You didn't do your Saturday, Sunday
hang
sign.
on. Are everybody ready for the magic? Did that work?
There you go.
There we go. Now we're talking. Good call. Good call. Okay. So I'm going to say, first of all, I did watch this game with a Niners fan. So I have what I think is insight into how the Niners fans feel. And they were texting other Niners fans. So I may be off, Niner fans. So let me know if I'm close to this one. But from what I gather, and as you can see from the thumbnail, it was a win. But from what I gather, the Niners fans aren't all that confident with the way this game went.
Really?
Yes. And
I had a much different reaction.
Okay. Well, so this is good.
Keep going.
Let me go for a minute, and then you tell me how this sounds. So the first half went well, obviously, for a Niners fan. It was whatever 16-3. It was kind of a dominant. It kind of looked a little bit like last year's Niners that when they got rolling in any of the games they won, it almost looked like a carbon copy of every game.
Yeah,
the offense
16-3 at the half, dominant, like you said.
That's a dominant first half. Even though the very end of the half, they kind of let them go right down the field, and they could have even scored a touchdown, but held them to 3. All right, so there's that. Then in the third quarter, they come out, score a touchdown, and look like they're putting this game away, 23-3. I mean, when's the last time the Seahawks beat the Niners? It's been 6 or 7 games in a row now.
Correct.
It's been quite dominant, right?
Yeah.
So then they come out 23-3, and then they give up 2 touchdowns in a row, and that kick return, 97-yard touchdown, and the sentiment that I was gathering from Niners fans is like, here we go again. We're about to blow another double-digit lead, like the last 2 double-digit leads they blew. So that third quarter seemed to strip a lot of the confidence out of Niners fans. So Niners fans, if that's the right sentiment, let us know in the comments. And even though they came back in the fourth quarter and by the numbers really just took the game away from them in the fourth quarter, the sentiment was, yeah, but we still could have lost that game. And that third quarter, like unanswered 14 points, especially how awful giving up a kick return touchdown looks. It kind of reminded them that, oh, yes, this team's utterly capable of blowing a two score lead or a double digit lead. And they even showed it in this game. So I don't know. What do you think? I've got more to say on it, but what do you think of that? That's the reaction I got.
That sounds like a legit fan reaction, like not happy with the win because Seattle, I think, is a good team. Like they started 3-0, they're now 3-3, so they've lost 3 in a row. But it was a competitive game. Like Seattle was executing on offense and defense, and it was a good game. And it was a turnover or like a wild special teams play that brought them back into it, which makes it more interesting. As a casual fan, I found that more entertaining. But I think, okay, so here's, if I was talking to a Niners fan right now, I would say you guys played really well. The defense looked good. It looked better than they did the previous weeks. Brock Purdy is amazing. And they've had so many injuries to the defense and the offense, and they're still playing great. And they put in a rookie running back that had a 70-yard run,
to seal the game.
So there was a lot of positives to take away from it that I would have said, like Kittle had the 2 touchdowns, and Purdy was on point, and Debo wasn't 100% and still played very well, so there was, it was a close game. They could have lost it, but I mean, they played well and they won. So I don't know. I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was a great game.
Yeah, I think this is the fatalistic nature of fans who are kind of once bitten, twice shy. Like coming into this season, I mean, they made it to the overtime in the Super Bowl. Yep. Preseason pick to be the NFC representative. Drop a couple awful games to teams that that at least in the standings, they should be better than.
Mm-hmm.
And coming into this game, they have that third quarter that makes the fans feel, well, fuck, here we go again. So right. So to your point, someone who's not emotionally really tied up with the team, this is a good game. I mean, championship teams win the game in the fourth quarter. That's what San Francisco did.
Yeah.
But to a jaded fan who's like, come on, we got to be better than this. And
not with all their starters.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, there's lots of good. So let's get to the good. So that's the fan reaction.
They were really worried about the San Fran's pass defense, right? Because they already had, like, it was a rookie QB or a DB, and he was injured. And so they was going to like a third string person. I was going to say someone out of a parking lot, but I'm not going to based on the comments from our last video. So that I'm sure he's a fantastic young man. He did not come from a parking lot, but he's the third string DB, right? And was still, and Seattle has a good pass offense, right? So that was, that was all positive for me. Here's the one thing too. I'll say one negative thing about San Francisco. I don't want to be too nice. Man, am I tired of hearing about Bosa and how great he is. For the people, this is more of a commentator complaint, because they talked about him all the time, every single series. He's a great player. I don't believe he had a sack. I mean, a defensive end could be a really disruptive player, but oh my goodness, they don't have to call it out every single time. And that was like, after a while, it was like, okay, just give me a break. And I swear to God, there was one time where he just got stood up by the left tackle, and then they were like, "Oh, did you see the pressure that like Bosa had?" Like, I'm positive that happened once. So anyway, that's the one, but that's more of a commentator thing than than a player thing.
Okay, that's fair, and I'll push back on that Bosa take, if you will. He did not get a sack, but he at least got some pressures, and it seems as though he was disrupting the timing of that pass game. So I would, regardless of how much love they were giving him, he did disrupt the timing of that game throughout the game without arriving at Smith. And the first interception, I think, was just a direct result of his pressure. So, but you're right.
And there was later on when Seattle like had to pass, they definitely had the running back chip him more than they did in the game. So like, which is a comment of how effective he was. Not saying he wasn't effective. Very effective player. Yeah. I don't need to hear about it every series.
Yeah. Well, let's give some of the rest of the defense a love. All right. No, that's true. That's totally fair. All right. So I want to just do a category of the good here. We're still on San Francisco because they're the winning team. So they get the first round of comments here. Warner punched the ball out again. I don't remember if that actually turned into a turnover, if the Seattle recovered it. He seems to do that at least once a game, where he gets a clean punch as he's going in for the tackle.
Yeah.
And it just happens every game. And then he had another play where Seattle called a screen pass, a middle screen on third down, and it looked like it was going to go. And it looked like the perfect call. And Warner split two blockers and made the hit, stopped them short, forced a fumble, forced a punt. And it was just an outstanding play. It's just one of those screens where it looked like this was going to go for 20 yards, and he killed the whole thing dead in its tracks. So it's sticking with my theme that started a couple weeks ago, where I think he's the best defensive player in the league, at least for sure the best linebacker, and just keeps coming up with these like game-changing plays, or they might not look like highlight reel stuff, but that was an enormous play in the game, stopping that screen pass on third down.
And you started by saying it looked like the perfect call. It was the perfect call. It was just not executed perfectly because the defensive player blew it up. There's nothing more that I was really impressed with Seattle's, like, because one of the main things here is that San Francisco was getting pressure with 4 linemen, and that's it. They didn't have to blitz. And so Seattle, I was impressed with how they were trying to mitigate that by having screen passes and draws, because they ran almost a screen pass a series, which I think they needed to do to like offset some of the pass rush. So a lot of times I thought that was a great call, but Warner, like you said, blew it up, and without that, it would have been a significant gain.
Right. And my next point, we've already covered it. I was going to actually pile on and say Bosa was harassing all game, but I'll save you the extra Bosa.
He's really good. He's really good. Yeah. And, he can take off faster than a Boeing jet or whatever they used, 0.67 seconds. And it's great. Like he's He's a terrific player.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I just to go off on their D line for a sec here. Leonard Floyd, I think, is looking good, but their D tackles, there was a huge question mark at tackle after Hargrave went out. They look great.
Yes, that's a great point, because that was without good quality D tackles, then that means running up the middle's available. You know what I mean? And that changes everything, because Seattle had a huge problem running the ball. That was really one of the takeaways from this game. The San Francisco rushed for 228 yards and Seattle rushed for 52 yards.
Can't win a game like that.
No, you can't. And so it's a dominant win by San Francisco. I don't know what your problem is, all you San Francisco fans. But anyway, I'm not going to say that again. But it was so without the defensive tackles, like that running game for Seattle is going to be more of a problem. So that's a great call, because their D tackles were fantastic.
Yeah. All right. And moving on, a couple other notes here. Purdy, 3 TDs, no picks. He looks so comfortable back there. I've heard a couple takes saying he's getting a little too comfortable doing the Iowa State run around as much as he feels like it to buy more time. But at no point does he look like he's in so much distress that he's actually going to get sacked for an enormous loss. It's close all the time, but he seems to be in control of it. Not like Mahomes in control. Mahomes almost looks like he's walking around. But Purdy's so comfortable back there. He doesn't mind extending the play, and it doesn't look like he's really ever in danger of taking an awful loss so far. So he's just locked in and looked really poised.
Yeah, I thought he looked great. I have no negative comments about a quarterback scrambling for a first down. It's people are really quick to do that. Like, you can't stay in the pocket, or you need to be a passer, and you don't want to be just known as a runner. I really think that's overblown. Like, if something's not there and you can run and get a first down, then you take it. And it's not, and it's the only time when it's bad is when you look to run first and there's open people downfield. And he never does that. Like, he's great decision making with the ball. Like, he never puts it in I could remember any throws where he put it in a position for it to be bad. So he's terrific.
Yeah. More often, it's much more often than not that he makes the right call and keeps it. And he manages to take shots when you need to take a shot without being too risky. It's like threading the needle of aggressiveness and going too conservative. And to your point, he runs just enough to make it effective. Like, he picked up one first down that I'm sure just killed the Seattle fans' confidence when it looked like they had him and we're going to force a kick. And instead he just scrambled and got, like, it was important too. It was about 7-8 yards. It was a big time scramble, and he still got it. And in this day and age, that's the model. I think Burrow is an echo of the past. The guy who sits in the pocket and just picks you apart and almost never looks to or ever even needs to scramble, and never really does, even though he's mobile. In college, he was super mobile. But I mean, you see Mahomes, you see Jackson, you see these guys who can really move. And that's just a component you have to have, it seems, nowadays to win, especially because the guy across from you, the best guys across from you, they're doing it. They're going to pick up 1 or 2 first downs that just aren't in the game plan with their legs. So you better have someone who can do it too. All right. So my last item that's a major positive for the 49ers is they had 4 rookies show up huge. Now, Garendo got the game sealing run, and he's got breakaway speed. Green and Mustafa, the cornerback and safety, both got picks. And Dominic Pooney looks like going to be a dominant guard. Like, he's just plug him in. You don't even know that there's a rookie there. It's just, he's one of the more solid O linemen already. So he looked huge
when they said, like, okay, this rookie's got to come in, and he looked really thick. Like, so I was like, that's exactly what I want my backup guard to look like.
No, he's not a backup, not that guy. Pooney's the starting. Pooney's the starting right guard.
Who was the one that came in though?
That's a rotation there. Those guys are rotation. Pooney's the starting right. But anyways, he's just, how about that? You didn't even notice that a rookie's the standard starting lineman.
Now playing starting guard is this guy. And I was like, this guy looks fantastic.
No, those guys kind of get rotated.
Oh, okay.
And then the other really good thing for the Niners was the kicker, Matthew Wright, signed him 3 for 3, and they needed that because their starting kickers hurt. Yeah. So that's kind of all the really good stuff for the Niners. Now, I want to pick on some of the bad stuff, or do you want to do some good stuff for Seattle first?
We hit most of it. It was I was really impressed with San Francisco's commitment to run the ball, because if I was the head coach, I would, and my running back gets injured, like I would abandon the run, and I would feel like, well, we have enough weapons with Samuel and Kittle, but I'm really impressed with how they kept to the script. Like, the plan was to be balanced running and throwing and setting up play action and stuff. So I think that I was impressed by that. And
the running backs keep getting hurt. Mason got hurt.
That was so we were going to talk about that briefly. So he's got an AC sprain, right? So that's the acromioclavicular sprain, which is on the shoulder.
For those of you that don't know, Dover has his PhD in athletic therapy, so he knows what he's talking about.
I think if they know I'm not good at the podcast, so they figure I got to do something. So this is the glenohumeral joint's the main shoulder joint, like the ball and socket, but the AC joint, the acromioclavicular joint, is where your collarbone or your clavicle meets your acromion, and it's just held together by ligaments. And the good news is that it's a ligament sprain. You can't really, it's one of those things where it's pain mostly limits it. It's not going to really limit your range of motion or strength too much unless the pain's really bad. So it's not too dangerous to, it can heal relatively quickly and you can play again. It's not bad, except for the fact it's not great for a running back because when you get hit in the shoulder, it depresses the scapula, which then separates that joint. And so it's, for a running back, it might take a little bit longer than another position to come back, because that thing really needs to be in place for taking hits, because that you lead with your shoulder and you get hit in the shoulder a lot
and
land
you get
tackled. You land on it, is absolutely. You land on the ground, then you get hit on it.
So give us worst case and best case scenario on his time to come back.
Yeah, it's hard to know without the grade, because if it's a grade 1, 2, or 3, that would dictate the time. So if it's grade 1, it's like 1 to 2 weeks. If it's grade like 2 or 3, then it'd be like 4 to 6.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know what level it is. Like he came back for one play and then didn't, because I think he realized if he took another hit in the shoulder, like if you take another hit in the shoulder, he wouldn't be able to hold the ball. Like it'd be too painful for that.
Just on pain.
Yeah. So like so depending on the grade, that would really depend. They haven't announced that yet. So
when they go back there, they're just checking to see if anything's actually structurally damaged, like a
they'll do
bone.
an X-ray. They'll do an X-ray. Like they'll have, every stadium has an X-ray in the stadium. So they'll do a quick X-ray just to make sure things are not broken. And depending on how it's separated, how much the joint is separated, they would use that to help figure out what it is. So, and
they can determine all that right then off that X-ray.
Yeah, depending on how separated it is. Like they might, the separation might not. Yeah. So but it's also at that point, it's also how's it feel and how much pain they're in. So it's for that injury.
So one thing we know, since he came back on the field, we know for sure there's no actual structural damage like a broken bone.
Right.
And now it's grade 1, 2, or 3, might be 2, could be as short as 1 week, as long as 6. All right. Yep. So, and he was looking great. He was one of the top ones. Second or third in rushing in the league, first, something like that. He came
into the game first, I thought. So it's but they had one extra game.
Yeah. And McCaffrey's still weeks and weeks away, if not months away. So Garendo's going to have to carry some of this load here. So again, good on them for making some key picks that are all contributing right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to move on to the bad here, and we'll just roll into stuff.
Okay.
The San Francisco's red zone offense is still not looking like it did last year when McCaffrey was in there. It seemed inevitable they were going to punch it in last year when they got within the 10-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just don't look as sharp in the red zone and like they're as dominant and as consistent. The red zone offense doesn't look as good. Mm-hmm. And it's just a thing from last year to this year that, again, watching with a Niners fan, they recognize this and they feel it. They're like, oh man, this is normally somehow McCaffrey's getting in the end zone somehow. Like it's normally going to happen. And this game didn't look that good. And
didn't Kittle have 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, but I know it's just more. It's more of a statement of how it's looked this year. Again, once bitten, twice shy. They're just not feeling it. They're not feeling it. Are Niners fans, am I wrong? Are you guys does this game instill confidence? From what I gathered, it's not. It's a tentative, like, yes, we're back on track, but not all the way. The kick coverage is a joke. What is going on? How can you be this bad at kick coverage and expect to make it to the Super Bowl? And so I've got they give up a 97-yard touchdown, which is brutal. You just can't do that. And in 2 consecutive weeks, one of the kicks gets returned far enough that the kicker has to get involved in making the tackle. And in both cases, the kicker gets hurt.
Yeah, because he got hurt again last night, eh? So
it should never be the case where your kicker has to even make the decision. Like, should I put my nose in there? And if they're a gamer and they're a good teammate, they're going to do it. They're not going to just stand there saying, you guys do it. I mean, they want to show up for their team. And so Moody does it, twists his ankle. Wright does it. I don't know. He got hit in the back, hurt something in his upper body.
His shoulder. It looked like it was an AC thing. Like I don't know. I have zero insight into it. But he led with his shoulder and then walked away holding his shoulder. So
that's bad. If your kick coverage is like giving up touchdowns, getting to the point where your kicker has to constantly get involved, like how hard is it to do this? Like somehow their kick coverage it looks like it's the worst in the league. Like do better. Like you got to do better.
One more negative thing just about Seattle. There's really one of the key plays was the pass to Deebo Samuel on the sideline, and then he ran for a long touchdown. And the defensive back or safety was there for Seattle. He just ran right by him. And so it was like thought that the ball was overthrown or, didn't instead of targeting the receiver, he was trying to target the ball but completely misread it. But that one mistake led to like a 70-yard touchdown. So if that play didn't, that was a big mistake for Seattle.
See, the story of this game, now I want to get onto the Seattle half, is just big plays both directions. It seems like the story of this game. But on that specific play, on the replay, it looked like the ball was underthrown. So Samuel had to gear down to catch it. And I think if it was thrown on the timing that it looked like it should have been when Samuel's full speed, I think the corner or safety would have been there in the right spot. But the fact that he had to gear down is why he just zipped right past him. At least it seemed like to me on the replay, I'm like, I think this guy had it timed out, and he just didn't expect him to gear down in the last two steps to adjust to an underthrown ball.
Yeah, I read it a little bit differently because if it went any further, he was going to be out of bounds. So I thought like it had to, because he was really close to the out of bounds right there.
Yeah.
So
either way, to me, it seemed as though the ball being underthrown is what made that DB out of position. But that's what it looked like on replay. So then Seattle fans, I don't even know if any of you are watching, but I don't know how you must feel about this. Like, is it an inevitable feeling that you're just going to lose to San Fran because it just keeps happening? And the days of Seattle with Russell Wilson utterly dominating San Francisco are kind of way in the past at this point. And beyond that, I can't imagine Seattle fans feel that good about Geno Smith because he threw the two of the worst interceptions. And I get it. Bosa pressured him on one, but that ruined the potential. It looked like they were going to score on the opening drive. Like that they just marched right down the field. And hang on, one more. And then when they stole all the momentum from the Niners in the third quarter, he throws the back-breaking interception that hands all the momentum right back.
Yeah, that one was worse to me than the first one because it was sort of late over the middle, and the running back or the DB just ran right in front. Like it was right there. Like he ran just, so
these are rookies. That's not Ed Reed back there.
I know. So that was, and there was Metcalf. It could have been more out in front of him to get, but yeah, I mean, I look at it from I thought Geno Smith played well. Like overall, they could not run the ball. And so it's one dimensional. And we talked about this at our previous show. Like you can't win in the NFL being one dimensional. So the defenses are too good. No, if you're going to be reliant on the pass to mix up different coverages and things, that makes it too difficult. So I think that it's, if I was a Seattle fan, I'm fine with Geno Smith still. I think the defense is good. It's just they gotta. I don't know if it's really the running back or the offensive line. The offensive line, I've never seen it where they're much better at pass blocking than they are run blocking, and that's sort of rare to see across the board. So, but the good news is I feel like if you could just run it a bit better, then that I think changes everything. And the other thing I want to say, the positive about this too, is that Seattle's environment's amazing, right? Like it was crazy loud there. The fans are incredible. That to me is another reason why it was an excellent win for San Francisco.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I did see a couple of comments from Seattle fans who were at the game, and they said after that second interception, it just took the life out of the stadium. Which, to your point, it's hard to do in that stadium.
Yeah,
it sucks that you can make it like that mistake. Just gutted the
well,
atmosphere.
They're that fan base. It's like that in Philly. Like they're the fan base is intelligent there, you know, and they know the importance of that second interception, you know. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
really,
Yeah.
if you didn't know any different, then you could be just as loud after that. But they know, like, because that was.
And I don't think Dover means to say other fan bases aren't as intelligent.
Yeah, there's some that are not great. I'll be honest with you, but it's like they're
those will remain unnamed.
Yeah, it's mostly some NHL games I've been to in the South.
Okay, well that's different than an NFL fan base. I'll go with you on that. We've been to a couple hockey games in the South where I don't think people had any idea what they were looking at, but you know that's fair. They were expansion teams.
It was also a while ago too, so
yeah, it was a while ago.
But anyway,
yeah. So the other thing to Seattle's, I guess, credit or something that could be a positive, they had a couple. They could have won this game if it. I mean, the interceptions. I mean, you can't just say, well, you take the interceptions and when they could have won, but the interceptions happened. But the one big play that I haven't heard anyone talk about was the bomb to Metcalf that got called back on a procedure penalty. Yeah. And that wasn't a penalty on like a lineman who made the key block.
No, it was the running back that just went out wide and wouldn't stop shuffling his feet.
But what I didn't understand, so I'm missing something here because I know one guy can be in motion; it doesn't have to come set. But obviously I don't know. Unless he's the guy who has to get to the line, so he can't be in motion the whole way.
No, the difference is that you can be in motion running left to right, but you can't be in motion going forward and back. And he was facing forward.
Is that all it was?
I'm pretty sure he's facing forward and shuffling his feet. And but when you're facing forward, you have to come set.
Seattle
Otherwise, this is the CFL, and you can just get a running start.
Right. Seattle fans must have just barfed when they saw that get taken back for that.
And Metcalf, that was a great play and a great catch.
That was what 70-yard touchdown taken away.
The other thing Seattle got, well, no, that was a good thing for Seattle is when the kickoff totally went off that guy's hand, and they called it. And they called it, you know, and then San Fran ended up with it. So
that's my last thing, and that's the ugly of this game.
Oh, very good. Okay,
so I want to talk about. So I was watching this game with my cousin, who's a director of photography for television shows. So I was asking him his opinion on what he thinks happened here, because it was so clear on our instant replay that it hit the guy's thumb, like his thumb like deflects. It's just clear that it happened. And this happened in the Colts game, I guess maybe against Pittsburgh. I can't remember who, but it definitely hit the guy's hand, and the replay was so clear, and I think it caused a roughing the kicker that shouldn't have been, because you could just see it hit the guy's hand. Anyways, this is happening all the time, it seems like, in the NFL, and I can't believe the refs don't have the same view that we have. So everyone in the country can see it hit the guy's hand, and the only people that can't are those clowns those refs on the field. They're the only ones who didn't know that happened. And I was saying and then the explanation was they get a different feed than we do.
No,
are you kidding me? Just watch it on YouTube TV on an iPad, or have another ref watch our broadcast, and they get whatever bullshit one they're getting that clearly they can't see.
Yeah, no, that was we've talked about this on previous shows too, but it's something that is incredibly frustrating. Is when you see the replay on TV, the commentators are talking about it. They throw to the former ref who's like working with the crew, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this will be overturned," and then it isn't. Like, come on, like it makes it feel so subjective. Like it's like,
well, it is.
It shouldn't be. It's like they give the impression that it's like we're getting it right with replay and and stuff. So that's just as subjective as not having replay then,
right.
So which is
right. And you keep saying this every week when the guy in the booth's like, oh yeah, hit his finger, and the ref's like, no, the on-field ref makes the call that they did. And then that explanation they gave us was such a joke. It's
one thing when the commentators is like, well, I think it's this. And then like on the field, it doesn't get called that. And you'd be like, well, I guess the ref saw it differently. But when you have your own ref that says like, oh yeah, I think this will be called back. And then they're like, nope. It's like, okay.
And it's just so bad because everyone in the country knows it hit his finger except for the refs.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how they can't get our feed.
Yeah.
And it's not like the feed they give us is delayed. It's happening. We're watching it while he's watching his apparently worse version.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, everyone in this country knew. Canada, the next country over, Mexico, any country.
30 million people at least know that hit his finger, except for the 6 refs on the field. This is like WWF where the guy hits the guy with the chair when the ref's distracted. Like, that's how pathetic that is. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we all know.
That's great.
Anyways, and I know I'm not bitching about officiating because every team gets an awful call against them. So it eventually evens out. It seems as though, but man, get it right.
That's a great call. We're comparing it to wrestling because there's definitely some times where I feel bad for the linesman that the head coach is standing right behind and the head coach is just lighting him up, just yelling, screaming at the top of his lungs, like, and it absolutely looks like after Brock Lesnar just hit the guy with the chair. He'd be like, "How could you not be calling this?" It's just like that. It's the same. It's a good comparison.
Yeah, it's just bad. I mean, I just don't get why. I don't know. We could go on forever about it. I'm sure every fan gets frustrated when it's just so obvious. We all can see it and they can't. It's almost laughable that the only people who didn't get to see it the way we saw it was the people who have to decide.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways,
the last thing I was going to say is that because one of the differences between this game and like the Monday night game, for example, with KC and the Saints was this was played well. Like both teams played well. Both teams were competitive. And one of the things I noted, it was that Seattle got the ball back with 1:44 to go and 3 timeouts. How many times do you not see that? How many times do you see it's like, well, they got to go the length of the field for, in 60 seconds with no timeouts. And so at least there, I feel like that's a common, another positive thing about the coaching staff, like in not burning the timeouts when they didn't need it. And they were in a position to win it with 2 minutes to go, which is great.
And they had their timeouts and Shanahan had already burned too. So if he needed them, he burned them in a way that I didn't think were useful.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just, for me, it was like, as a fan, I was like, oh, we're in this, like making, so.
And I think they might have a good guy here. Like MacDonald might be
Yep.
All signs are indicating they got their guy. And he does call the defense. He's kind of like McDermott. He's a head coach, defensive coordinator. So I'm on board with either. If the head coach is, whether or not he's a defensive mind or an offensive mind, I like the idea that he's actually calling his side of the ball and not handing off both coordinating duties. And to me, I know you think Geno's enough. I don't think Smith is enough for this team. Okay. And if they can just get a better quarterback, I think they'll at least have a bit more of a shot here. Obviously, the running game's a problem, but I at least think they've got a good coach here. So that's probably where I'm going to leave it.
Gotcha. Okay.
What do you got?
That's good for me.
All right. So that's it for our review of the Thursday night game. And we stick around for our review of this weekend's college and pro games. Oh, and if you're still with us and you're still watching and you like what we got here, you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That really help us out. We'd really appreciate it.
See you next time.